My wife didn't leave me because I cheated. I didn't hit her. I didn't gamble our money away or disappear for weeks. She left me because I wasn't impressive yet. She said it calmly, like she was explaining a scheduling conflict, not dismantling a marriage. You're a good man, she told me. Just not where I need you to be. That sentence stayed with me longer than the divorce papers. The moment itself didn't happen during a fight. There was no yelling, no slammed doors, no dramatic build-up. It happened on an ordinary Wednesday evening, after dinner, while the dishes were still drying on the counter. She sat across from me, hands folded neatly, eyes steady. Prepared. I've been thinking a lot, she said. I already knew where this was going. Not because she'd said anything outright, but because people telegraph exits long before they announce them. The sudden gym memberships, the new clothes, the subtle corrections in conversations, the way my presence stopped being comforting and started being tolerated. I reconnected with someone, she continued. Someone from before. I didn't ask who. I didn't need to. He's successful, she added, like that detail mattered more than the betrayal itself. He knows where he's going. There it was. The comparison. I nodded once. How long? She hesitated. Long enough to know I don't want this anymore. This. Not me. Not us. This. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't beg. Didn't accuse. I just said, okay. That response unsettled her. She was expecting emotion. Pain. Resistance. Something that would let her feel justified. When she didn't get it, she leaned forward slightly, as if she needed to explain herself better. You've been comfortable, she said, and I don't want comfortable. I smiled faintly. Neither do I. She blinked. That's not what I meant. I know, I said. The man she left me for was everything I wasn't on paper. Wealthy. Visible. The kind of man people noticed when he entered a room. She didn't say his name that night, but I'd already heard it enough times in passing to know it by heart. Marcus. Always Marcus. Marcus thinks big, she once told me months earlier. Marcus doesn't wait. Back then, I thought it was just conversation. It wasn't. When she packed her things the next morning, she moved efficiently. No tears. No hesitation. Like someone leaving a hotel room, not a marriage. Before she walked out, she stopped at the door and turned back. I hope you figure things out, she said. I really do. It sounded like encouragement. It wasn't. After she left, the apartment felt quieter than it ever had. Not empty, just honest. I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, staring at the place where she'd been sitting the night before, thinking about all the moments I'd dismissed as harmless, all the times I'd chosen patience over pride, stability over flash. I wasn't devastated. I was clear. Over the next few weeks, her absence became routine. Friends checked in. Family offered sympathy. Everyone assumed I was struggling. I didn't correct them. Then, one afternoon, about a month later, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, I wasn't sure if I should tell you this. I stared at the screen for several seconds before replying. Tell me what? The response came almost immediately. I saw your wife today, with someone else, the guy she left you for. I didn't ask where. I didn't ask why they were together. I asked, and another pause. She looked different, the person wrote. Not happy, just confident, like she'd won something. I typed back, she thinks she has. I put the phone down and went back to work. That night, alone in the apartment, I thought about the version of myself she'd walked away from. The man she believed she'd outgrown. The man she thought would stay exactly where he was. She'd made a choice based on who I appeared to be in that moment. That was her mistake. Because while she was chasing status, I was building something quieter. And when people mistake silence for stagnation, they tend to regret it later. But regret only matters if you're willing to go back. I wasn't. The first time I saw her again, she made sure I noticed. It wasn't accidental. Nothing about it was. She chose a place she knew I still went to sometimes. A cafe near my office. Neutral ground. Public. Controlled. The kind of setting where people perform stability even when it's cracking underneath. I was already seated when she walked in. I recognized her immediately, but not because she looked better. She didn't. She just looked louder. Sharper lines. Heavier makeup. Confidence worn like armor instead of skin. Marcus followed a step behind her. Tall. Expensive. Relaxed in a way men are when life has never really cornered them. He scanned the room once, like someone checking territory, then smiled when he saw me. That smile wasn't hostile. It was worse. It was pity disguised as politeness. She hesitated for half a second when our eyes met, just long enough to confirm something. I wasn't broken. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't avoiding public spaces. That clearly wasn't the outcome she'd rehearsed. "Hey," she said, approaching my table anyway. Her voice was careful, balanced. I nodded. "Hey." Marcus extended his hand. "Marcus," he said, "good to finally meet you." I shook it briefly. Firm, neutral. "Nice to meet you." That was it. No tension, no competition, no bitterness. And that confused them. She glanced at the empty chair across from me. "You don't mind if we sit for a minute?" I did mind. I just didn't say it. "Go ahead," I said. She sat. Marcus remained standing for a moment, then pulled a chair closer than necessary, angling his body toward her. Subtle ownership. Very intentional. She crossed her legs, smoothed her coat, performed comfort. "So, how have you been?" she asked. I took a sip of my coffee before answering. "Good. Just that. Not busy. Not working on things. Not taking it one day at a time. Good." Marcus raised an eyebrow, amused. "Still at the same place?" he asked, like he was inquiring about an old appliance. "Yes." She watched my face closely, waiting for embarrassment, defensiveness, anything. I gave her nothing. "That's stable," she said finally. "There's something to be said for stability." Marcus smiled thinly. "I always tell people," he added, "stability is important early on, before you realize you want more." I met his eyes calmly. "Depends what you mean by more." He chuckled. "Freedom, growth, access." She nodded along. That was the moment I understood something very clearly. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't closure. This was a presentation. She wanted me to see the upgrade, to measure myself against it, to feel the gap. So I let her talk. She told me about the new places they'd traveled, the people Marcus knew, the plans they were exploring, everything framed carefully like bullet points in a pitch deck. Marcus occasionally filled in details, emphasized numbers, locations, connections. I listened, polite, detached. When she finally paused, she looked at me expectantly. "Well," she asked, "what do you think?" I smiled. "I think you got exactly what you wanted." The sentence landed harder than I expected. Her expression flickered. "That's not." "I just meant." "No," I said gently. "You didn't leave because you were unhappy. You left because you were impatient." Marcus shifted slightly. She frowned. "That's not fair." "I'm not judging," I replied. "I'm acknowledging." Silence stretched. She tried again. "You don't feel anything about all this?" I considered the question honestly before answering. "I felt disappointed," I said. "Not because you left, but because you didn't wait." "For what?" Marcus asked, tone sharper now. "For me to finish," I said. He laughed. "Finish what?" I stood up, picked up my cup, and met his eyes evenly. "Exactly." I nodded once at her. "Take care." And I walked out. Behind me, I heard her call my name. I didn't turn around. That night, my phone lit up with a message from her. I didn't expect that. I didn't reply. Another message came an hour later. "You seem different." Still nothing. She'd mistaken my silence once before. She was about to do it again. The regret didn't arrive all at once. It never does. It came in fragments, small moments, the kind that don't hurt immediately, but settle somewhere deep and grow roots. The first sign was the silence. After the cafe, she didn't text for 2 days. That alone told me everything. If she'd felt confident, satisfied, validated, she would have left it there. But silence meant she was replaying the conversation, rerunning every line, looking for something she missed. On the third night, my phone buzzed. "Her, I keep thinking about what you said." I didn't open it right away. I let it sit while I finished what I was working on. Not to play games. Just because for the first time in a long while, her urgency wasn't mine to manage. When I finally replied, it was one sentence. "Me? About what?" The dots appeared instantly, then stopped, then appeared again. "Her. About waiting." I leaned back in my chair. She wasn't asking for clarity. She was asking for reassurance. I didn't give it. "Me. You made your choice." Another pause. "Her. I know." I just didn't think it would feel like this. There it was. Not I miss you. Not I made a mistake. Just discomfort. I didn't respond. That night, I slept well. A week passed. Then two. She didn't stop watching, though. I could feel it. People always think distance is invisible, but it isn't. It has weight. And when someone starts orbiting again, you notice the pull. She viewed my stories. Every one. Sometimes within minutes. She liked an old photo. Then unliked it. Accidental, but not really. Marcus, on the other hand, started appearing less. At first, it was subtle. Fewer posts together. Fewer carefully curated moments. Then none at all. That wasn't my business. But patterns speak whether you listen or not. The next message came late. Too late. Her. Do you ever think about how things would have turned out if I stayed? I read it twice. Then once more. And finally replied. Me. No. That was the truth. She didn't answer for hours. When she did, the tone had changed. Her. You really don't care anymore, do you? I stared at the words for a long moment. People confuse not caring with bitterness. They think indifference is cruelty. It isn't. It's peace. Me. I care enough not to lie to you. She didn't respond. We ran into each other again a month later. Not planned. Not staged. A grocery store. Late evening. The kind of place where pretenses fall apart under fluorescent lights. She was alone. No Marcus. No armor. She looked tired. Not physically. Emotionally. Like someone who had been holding a pose for too long and was finally feeling the strain. She noticed me at the same time I noticed her. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she smiled. Smaller this time. Realer. Hey, she said softly. Hey. She glanced at my cart. Normal things. Ordinary things. You look steady, she said. I shrugged. I feel steady. She nodded, swallowing. Marcus is traveling a lot, she said unprompted. Business stuff. I didn't ask. She waited anyway. Well, I didn't fill the silence, she sighed. I think I rushed, she said. I thought momentum meant direction. I looked at her then. Really looked. She wasn't asking for forgiveness. She was asking for confirmation. Confirmation that she'd misjudged something important. I think, I said slowly, you mistook certainty for speed. Her eyes glossed slightly. And you? She asked. Did you ever regret staying? I shook my head. No. Staying was never the mistake. She exhaled shakily. We stood there for another second, surrounded by strangers, shells of things nobody needed. I should go, she said. Yeah. She hesitated. I'm glad you're doing well. I know, I replied. That surprised her. As she walked away, I felt nothing sharp. Nothing heavy. Just clarity. Some people don't leave because you weren't enough. They leave because they couldn't wait to find out. And by the time they realize what patience builds, the door is already closed. Regret doesn't announce itself loudly. It settles in quietly, like dust you don't notice until the light hits it just right. After the grocery store, she didn't reach out again for a while. Not because she didn't want to, because she didn't know how. People are confident when they're winning. They hesitate when they realize the scoreboard isn't what they thought. I could tell when things started unraveling for her. Not from gossip, not from mutual friends, from timing. Messages that used to arrive during the day started coming late at night. The hours when people are alone with their thoughts and no longer protected by distractions. One night, close to midnight, my phone lit up. She didn't open with nostalgia. She didn't open with apology. She opened with honesty, the kind that comes only after pride is exhausted. She said she fell out of place in her own life. That everything looked right from the outside, but felt hollow when no one was watching. That conversations had become transactional. That affection felt conditional. That she kept waiting for a moment when it would finally feel worth it. I read it slowly. Every line, not because it hurt, because it explained everything. She hadn't chosen him. She had chosen the idea of arriving somewhere faster. I waited before responding. Not hours. Not days. Just long enough to be sure I wasn't speaking from emotion. I told her I understood. And I did. People chase certainty when they're afraid of growth. They chase guarantees when they don't trust themselves to endure uncertainty. She asked if we could meet. Just to talk. I agreed. Public place. Daytime. No ambiguity. When she arrived, she looked composed, but the cracks were visible now. Not desperation. Something worse. Disillusionment. She spoke carefully, measured, like someone trying not to tip a fragile structure. She said she'd been wrong about what mattered. That stability without alignment felt empty. That admiration without respect decays. That success loses its shine when it's used as leverage instead of shared ground. She paused often, watching my face, waiting for something. Relief. Validation. Hope. She didn't find any of it. When she finally stopped talking, the silence stretched. Then she asked the question she'd been circling the entire time. If I would ever consider trying again. I didn't answer immediately. Not to be dramatic. To be precise. I told her no. Not harshly. Not emotionally. Calm. Certain. I told her that the version of me who would have tried again no longer existed. That he had been built on compromise and quiet endurance. That losing her had forced me to become someone who didn't negotiate his worth for proximity. She looked at me like someone watching a door close without a sound. She said she understood, but her eyes said she hadn't expected finality. She asked if I was happy. I said yes. And for the first time, it wasn't a defensive answer. It was a statement. We finished our coffee. Talked about neutral things. Weather. Work. Life moving forward. When we stood to leave, she hesitated. Just for a second. She said she hoped I'd find everything I was working toward. I told her I already had. That was the moment it landed. Not the breakup. Not the choice she made back then. The realization that the future she imagined herself stepping into was built on a version of me that no longer existed. She walked away slowly. Didn't look back. I watched her disappear into the crowd. Not with resentment. Not with triumph. But with something quieter. Closure. Some people mistake regret for redemption. They think realizing a mistake entitles them to reverse it. It doesn't. Regret is a consequence, not a currency. And the hardest truth she had to carry wasn't that she lost me. It was that she lost me without me ever needing to prove her wrong. I didn't rise dramatically. I didn't return to make a point. I simply stayed. And sometimes, that's the most humiliating outcome of all. Life has a way of testing whether your growth is real or just situational. Weeks passed, then months. And during that time, something important happened. Nothing. No dramatic comeback. No sudden confession from her. No public apology. Just silence. And silence is where truth lives. I kept moving forward. Not in a cinematic way. In a disciplined way. Work. Training. Reading. Building routines that didn't depend on external validation. The kind of progress that doesn't announce itself, but compounds quietly. That's when a second phase of regret usually appears. Not the emotional one. The practical one. The moment when life stops distracting you and starts asking questions. I heard through mutual circles that things weren't as polished anymore. That the lifestyle she'd stepped into came with invisible terms and conditions. Expectations disguised as generosity. Pressure disguised as security. Affection that arrived only when performance was acceptable. Success, when borrowed, comes with interest. And interest is ruthless. She reached out again, this time indirectly. A message passed through someone else. Casual, light, almost careless. The kind people send when they want to test whether the door is truly closed. I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. Because I wasn't curious. That's how I knew it was over for real. Curiosity is the last thread people hold on to when something still matters. One evening, months later, I ran into her again. Different setting. Unexpected. She didn't plan it. Neither did I. She smiled when she saw me. Not confidently. Relieved. She said I looked different. Not physically. Internally. Like someone who wasn't waiting anymore. She told me she'd been thinking a lot. About timing. About choices. About how she used to confuse acceleration with progress. I listened. Not like someone hoping for an outcome. Like someone observing a pattern complete itself. She admitted that leaving hadn't given her peace. Just momentum. And momentum, without direction, eventually crashes. She said she wondered what would have happened if she'd stayed. I told her something she wasn't ready for. That staying wouldn't have saved us. Because the issue was never circumstances. It was values. You don't abandon alignment for convenience, and then expect alignment to still be there when convenience disappoints you. She nodded slowly. This time, there was no argument, just acceptance. She didn't ask for another chance. That was growth. But growth doesn't rewind time. Before we parted, she said something that stayed with me. She said watching me walk away without resentment had been harder than if I'd chased her. That indifference had forced her to confront herself in a way anger never would have. That was never my intention, but it was the result. Here's the part most people don't understand. Walking away quietly isn't weakness. It's discipline. It means you trusted the future more than you fear being alone. It means you didn't need to humiliate anyone because life would handle that part on its own. I didn't win. She didn't lose. We just ended up exactly where our decisions led us. Some people choose comfort and later pay with clarity. Others choose discomfort and earn peace. I never changed my decision. Not because she wasn't sincere, but because sincerity after regret is still too late. And the most meaningful response I ever gave her wasn't a speech. It was a life that no longer needed her in it. Time didn't heal everything. It clarified it. That's the part people don't talk about enough. Healing isn't about forgetting. It's about understanding so clearly that you no longer need answers. A year passed, not quietly, productively. My life didn't transform overnight. No sudden wealth, no dramatic reveal, just steady upgrades in areas that actually matter. I became sharper, more selective, less available. My circle got smaller. My standards got higher. And peace became normal. That's when people start to notice. Not because you announce success, but because you stop explaining yourself. I heard that she eventually left the situation she chose. That the stability she chased turned conditional. That admiration turned into management. That freedom disappeared the moment she stopped being impressive. That's what happens when you build a life on optics instead of values. We never spoke again. Not because there was unfinished business, because everything was finished. Here's the lesson most people miss. Closure doesn't come from conversations. It comes from alignment. When your actions finally match your self-respect, the mind goes quiet. You stop replaying scenarios. You stop imagining different outcomes. You stop wondering what you should have said, because you said everything the moment you chose yourself. Some people think the strongest move is confrontation. It's not. The strongest move is withdrawal without bitterness. It forces the other person to sit alone with their choices, without your energy, without your reaction, without the satisfaction of knowing they still matter. And that silence? It echoes. Years later, I realized something important. She didn't regret losing me when she left. She regretted it when she saw that I didn't collapse, that I didn't chase, that I didn't rebuild my identity around the wound, that I didn't need validation to move forward. Regret doesn't come from hurting someone. It comes from realizing they didn't need you the way you thought they did. I didn't become colder. I became clearer. Clear about who belongs in my life. Clear about what effort looks like. Clear about the difference between love and leverage. And that clarity became my filter. The right people stayed. The wrong ones removed themselves. That's the real ending. Not revenge, not reunion, but peace so complete that the past loses its grip. If you're listening to this and you're in that moment, the one where someone chose differently, dismissed you, underestimated you, understand this. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain your worth. And you definitely don't need to wait for regret to validate your decision. Your life will do the talking. Quietly, relentlessly, permanently. And that's how you win without ever playing the game. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel for more real, meaningful stories like this. Your support truly helps. See you in the next one.